brothers, previously at the top of the luxury real estate market in South Florida, now facing charges of running an elaborate sex trafficking ring, along with their third brother. All right, stick with me here. Tal Alexander, with his younger brother and business partner, Oren, along with Oren's twin, Alon, are charged with working together to traffic, drug, and rape women, going back to when they were just teenagers. The New York District Attorney calling their behavior heinous. The twins are also charged with multiple sexual battery counts in the state of Florida. They are due in federal court this week. They will learn whether a judge will grant them bail after big brother Tal was denied bond just this Friday. Here with us is federal defense attorney Ronald Chapman. Ronald, welcome back. Good morning. This case really absolutely disgusting. So we're talking about federal charges of sexual abuse spanning more than a decade. With all this evidence, what kind of defense are these legal teams mounting?
Well, this is definitely going to be a tough case. I hear that there's almost 40 victims coming forward. There's been quite a few lawsuits. We've got state charges in Florida, but also the Southern District of New York charging. So there's a lot of legal problems mounting. In terms of defenses, this is very similar to the Diddy indictment, surprisingly. We have allegations of drugging and sexual assault, but those allegations are quite dated. In the specific indictment in New York, we have allegations dating back to 2010, 2016. As many people may guess, the statute of limitations would bar a prosecution for that. So instead, prosecutors like to wrap this in a conspiracy, which extends the statute of limitations, but that's exactly where their defense attorneys will attempt to poke to try to unlock this case.
Very interesting. And like I mentioned, the brothers are facing indictments in two different states, state and federal level. How is that going to complicate the prosecution's process here?
And we're going to see it just like we saw it in the Trump case. We're going to have competing dates, competing hearings. These brothers were denied bond in Florida, but they will be transported up to the Southern District of New York, where it's likely those charges will take priority over almost all others. Then I would expect that if there's a conviction on federal charges, they would be transported to face state charges, and then they would have to serve both sentences if, in fact, they are sentenced. It really complicates matters, but the reality is, it ensures that the state and the federal government are able to try to get justice for the alleged victims in this case.
We're seeing them in court right now. We know a Florida judge granted bail for the twin brothers, Oren and Alon, on state charges. The older brother, Tal, was denied bail in relation to the federal charges. So what does that mean for the twins' prospects during their federal bail hearing that's expected this week?
So federal bail hearings happen before a magistrate, but then you can appeal them to the actual federal judge in the case. And so bail was denied to the one brother by the magistrate judge, and that will be appealed to the federal judge. The other brothers are going to go before the magistrate, and they will have the ability to have an appeal. Here's the difficult part. Israel has become an issue in this case because apparently they have a history of not extraditing people who are able to flee to Israel when there's a federal prosecution ongoing. That has been a chief concern of the prosecutor, as well as the wealth and financial assets and real estate assets of all of the brothers combined. The allegations here are very serious, and while there isn't going to be any future danger to the community, that's what the magistrate pointed out, we have very real concerns that they may flee. So the defense attorneys are going to try to present a package, just like P. Diddy did as well, a package that will try to ensure that everybody sticks around for trial and there are no issues with fleeing.
This indictment claims the brothers abused a range of women, yet the sex trafficking charges focus on two anonymous victims specifically. You mentioned there are about 40 victims here. Can you explain the reasoning behind that?
This is where I have a real difficult time, and this happened in the Diddy case as well. We have some older allegations related to sexual assault, and that certainly is egregious. But when we try to say that that is some form of sex trafficking, it becomes a little bit more difficult for a prosecutor to prove. They're going to have to prove that these people were transported with the intent to engage in some sort of sexual act. And the reason they're doing that, the reason the prosecutor is doing that, is to try to convert what would be an outside of the statute of limitations sexual assault into a sex trafficking conspiracy that they can now prosecute almost 10 years later. In fact, even in the 2010 charges, we're looking at 14 years later. That is a very difficult thing for a prosecutor to do. And it does suggest to a lot of folks who may be hearing the defense case here, why weren't these people coming forward earlier? Well, the reality is people become emboldened when they realize that justice is about to be faced. So people who were victims are going to start coming forward.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.